All right, guys, so for this lecture, we're going to take a little bit of a look at the structure of the urethra, bladder, as well as the ureters. So this is kind of the rest of the organs that go away from the kidney itself. So we're going to start with the ureters. The ureters are the tubes that actually attach the kidney to the bladder. They are one continuous tube all the way from the renal pelvis, that little inlet there on the side of the kidney, and then they enter into the back portion of the bladder, kind of the back aspect or posterior aspect of the bladder. They run actually behind the peritoneum, so because the kidneys are back there behind there, so they run back in behind that wall of the abdomen. And the main purpose or kind of main process by which urine moves from the kidneys all the way to the bladder is through peristalsis. Right, so that's that kind of as well as gravity as well. So peristalsis, that kind of rhythmic contraction of the muscles. All right, urinary bladder would be the next organ. Okay, you can see it here. It's a couple structures or couple of features of it. It's smooth, collapsible, and it's muscular. Right? It's just essentially a temporary storage for urine. There really isn't anything else that happens here in the bladder. We're just holding on to urine until we can relieve ourselves and get rid of it. Okay, there are a couple of features specific to it. There's what's called the trigone, which are the three openings that happen in the bladder. So there are the two in the back for the ureters. So that's these little kind of red spots right here. And then the third opening is the opening that then goes to the urethra. So this is the trigone, kind of forms a triangle down here at the bottom of the bladder. There are three basic layers to the bladder. There's obviously a muscular layer called the deuterosoro layer. There's a mucosa layer. So this is transitional epithelial. This is the only real place in the body where we see transitional epithelial, because remember, transitional epithelial doesn't allow for osmosis or diffusion. And then the walls are kind of folded in on themselves. So usually when we see the cats, when we dissect them, the bladders are pretty flat. And then the bladder can actually expand, but as it expands, it creates that internal pressure that gives us that feeling that we need to go to the bathroom. Okay. The next organ in line would then be the urethra. So this is the tube that's carrying urine from the bladder to the outside. Again, this is also done by peristalsis. Release of urine is controlled by two sphincters. There's an internal urethral sphincter, which is involuntary. We can't control that one. So once there's enough pressure inside of the bladder, that sphincter will open. And then the external urethral sphincter, which is the one that we can control. Okay. Gender differences, obviously there's going to be some length differences in the urethra itself. So in females, it's somewhere between 3 to 4 centimeters, about an inch. In males, it can be somewhere between 20 centimeters, which is up to 8 inches long. Location, obviously for females, it's along the wall of the vagina, so it kind of runs across the top portion of that. Okay, so female here, you've got your urethra that runs right across the top there. Oh, sorry. And then in males, it runs through the prostate gland and then runs the rest of the length of the penis. Okay. One of the issues that can happen because of the length of the urethra is we can end up with a condition called cystitis, which is simply a bladder infection that can then eventually become a kidney infection. It's really more common in women than it is in males, and it can really happen because of a urinary tract infection. It's mostly more common in females than it is in males because of the length of the urethra. It's much smaller, much shorter, and can tend to have those kind of issues with it. Urethra itself functions for females. Obviously, we're only carrying urine, and males, it carries both urine as well as sperm because of the way that the reproductive tract for the male is designed. The process of voiding our bladder, which is referred to as mictration. Okay, I would know this term. It's probably one that is going to end up as a quiz question. All right, so this is where both sphincter muscles are open to allow that urine to move from the bladder through the urethra to the outside. It requires the internal sphincter to relax, and then it requires an activation by us to relax that external sphincter. Okay. Developmental aspects real quick for this. So control of that external, the voluntary urethral sphincter actually doesn't start till about 18 months, which is one of the things that sometimes people forget. So until a baby is about 18 months old, they really can't control that. Um, Lots of times parents will think that they have the baby potty trained essentially, but who's really potty trained is the parent. So the parent knows how long the baby's bladder, or how long it takes for the baby's bladder to fill in a normal amount, right? And then they're the ones that are making the baby go to the bathroom at that point in time. It isn't until about a little over a year old, so almost 2 years right here, kind of a year and a half before that baby really can do that. So it's kind of unfair to kind of expect a baby before the age of one really to be able to kind of control their bladder on their own. And then obviously, the later that we get in life, we end up having issues with that as well. So we end up in continence. This is simply just the inability to control urination or mictration. It can happen just because of old age. Women, after they usually have a pregnancy, will have some issues with that from time to time because of the pressure that's placed on that as well. All right. But it does happen. But again, this is the one I really want to kind of highlight again, is the fact that it really doesn't happen until about 18 months. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop there. We will pick back up later this week with the actual process that forms urine, and we'll try to get through the rest of the notes and things as we go. Okay.